alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes, drugs, all commonly used by teens everywhere for recreation, stress, self-medication, depression, and other purposes. Most kids know the upsides to using, and many know the factual downsides. But often it doesn't have an effect on their decisions. Today, we will not only review the scientific statistics of substance abuse, but the emotional toll it takes on those who don't use. We'll take a look into the lives of individuals who refer to themselves as straight edge, meaning that by choice they do not partake in the previously stated activities. Drugs can be viewed as an aid or a hazard. It's really a matter of how you feel.
When I see somebody I care about doing drugs, it's mostly my concern for them. I mean, if it's around me, I feel uncomfortable personally if someone's near me doing drugs.
I feel a little sad, not like disappointed, but I just feel sad that they need that in their life to make themselves, get that feeling. Like, I could have the time of my life just sitting here completely sober right now. I don't really need anything to make me feel any different than I do right now.
It's their choice, so I don't really care. But when I see someone that I do care about, it's just really upsetting because I know like what they're destined for. It's kind of like a path that's not really good.
If one of my close friends were to start doing some kind of drug while I knew them, and I knew them before as someone who didn't, that really upsets me. But also if it's like a really close friend of mine, I try to like keep it to myself, but like it does really do a number on me.
People seem to come in complaining about every little thing of anxiety. And I think anxiety is a natural thing, and it happens, and life's difficult, and people get stressed, and so anxiety comes up. But using these drugs isn't necessarily a way to resolve your issues.
It's not my place to tell you what to do with yourself. I'm not, like your leader, but if it gets out of hand, like, I'm gonna talk to you about it.
Some people feel no one should partake in these activities.
The way that we use them now is just wrong. Like, the way that they were made is to help people like get better, not to make you have like a high.
Some think it's fine for others to do as long as it's done within reason.
I think the world should view drugs in just a responsible way. I mean, I feel like drugs should be used for medical reasons and alcohol should be used responsibly. I mean, I'm not generally against alcohol, but my mom was hit by a drunk driver when she was 21. So that's always been a big factor, as in not doing it underage.
I feel it doesn't slow me down at all. Like, if I felt that it was impairing my ability to enjoy and just do great in life, like I made honor roll for semester, I exercise every day, I have a job, and there's nothing really that's causing any problems for me.
When asked to reveal their reasons for being so opinionated, our group responds generously.
Marijuana really helped raise my moods, so my depression went away.
One of my best friends, I used to spend all my time with this friend, and during the summer she started partying more and more and more, to the point where every time I tried to talk to her, she wouldn't want to talk to me because she knew it upset me if she was drunk, and she would always be drunk, so she wouldn't really talk to me that much. And because of that, we just kind of drifted apart. We never really talk anymore.
Seeing my friends that used it, the way that they just changed after a lot of drug use. I mean, they became lifeless without it, and I didn't want to become like that.
Drugs cause a lot of changes in the brain, and they cause some of your neurotransmitters to be way out of whack. So you may do things irrationally that you wouldn't necessarily do.
My father used to be an alcoholic, and when he would get drunk, if my brother and I were playing too loudly downstairs, we'd get spanked. I mean, back then when we were kids, it was more normal. I guess, spanking wasn't considered evil as sin, but even still, he was drunk and really had no inhibitions about it.
My mom, I was talking to her about something about the beer that she was drinking, whatever. She's like, why do you know everything about this? And I'm like, I just hear around from school and everything. And then she started talking about how her mother, she died when my mom was only 16, And she's like, alcoholism runs in the family, you know that, right? And she's like, I don't want you to get into that because I don't want you to live the life that I live. I don't want to have to be like that for my kids someday, like die just because I got messed up.
Some stories were more unsettling than others.
My mom was hit by a drunk driver when she was 21. She was 21 and she was on a motorcycle and she was hit by a drunk driver. She lost her leg and ripped her heart and broke her hand, and it was a pretty big deal.
I was sleeping over at my grandmother's house at the time, and my grandfather got drunk one night and tried to walk downstairs. Fell, broke his neck. My grandmother's crying in the kitchen. I kind of came out after I'd woken up from all the bracket. He was just dead on the bottom of the stairwell.
One night I was outside. The thought suddenly came across to me that if I broke into a house, I certainly wouldn't get caught because I was very crafty, very sneaky. And I'd be able to get the drugs for free. I wouldn't have to waste my money. I could sell them to others. Most importantly, I'd be able to get my fix. And my fix now, because I need that instant gratification whenever an urge comes on. And I went on a series of break-ins. And because of that, I landed in jail with multiple felonies, thinking my life was over. I had to go in front of the judge telling me they think I'm a menace to society, and that if I don't change my life around, I'm gonna rot in a cell for the rest of my life. Even that wasn't enough for me, and when I sat in jail for 6 hours with two of my best friends at the time, we all three said we're never gonna use. But me being the drug addict I am, the drugs were so powerful, and once I got out, I was high that night. I was high within an hour after getting out of jail. So where did that thinking go?
In spite of these horrible experiences, close friends and peers still constantly attempt to persuade the straight edge community to betray their intuition.
This girl, she's like, okay, I have some whiskey in my bag and I have 2 little bottles of tequila. Do you want them? And I'm like, no. Then an hour later, she'd be like, hey, Michaela, I still have those bottles. Do you want to try it? And I'm like, no, I'm good. And she would just keep asking me, and I'm like, okay, just don't ask me anymore. I'm not going to say yes.
A lot of people have tried to persuade me to do drugs. I've gotten a lot of trash anonymously on the internet. People saying why don't you do it, you should do it, called me names, pretty much just made fun of me for not doing it. And all I had to say to that was, how does it affect you that I'm not doing it? Why does it bother you if I'm not doing it?
I don't pressure anyone to do drugs or alcohol, but at the same time, I expect people not to judge me for it. I have persuaded people when I was first starting to use. I got some of my good friends hooked on marijuana, and one of them, I think, actually still struggles with that today, although he wants to get off it.
It often makes a straight edge feel alienated and alone.
It's when they say I'm lame for not doing it, or I'm stupid, and why. And when I tell them why I don't, that I'm straight edge, they're really condescending about it, so it's really hard to stick up for that.
It seemed that I was almost one against the world, that I was sort of this outlier in society, not ever pressured into using drugs, but I wanted to use them in order to help me overcome this adversity.
I don't get invited to parties. People who party know that I don't drink and I don't smoke, so they don't invite me because they know I'd probably be a real big buzzkill.
But users also feel they should have their opinions voiced and heard.
Drugs in general cause a lot more problems being illegal than they do being legal. People who want to do drugs are going to do them if they're legal or if they're not legal. But having them illegal basically creates a very dangerous, corrupt, unregulated market. I wouldn't really say there's any upsides, but at the same time I wouldn't say as long as done in moderation there are no downsides either. They cause me to be able to turn off my brain so I don't have to think about anything. I'm just completely numb. My mind is numb, my body's numb, especially with the opiates. I almost feel like I'm floating. I took pride in the fact that I could walk around outside in shorts and a t-shirt when it was snowing out and there was ice on the ground, and I felt warm. I felt like it was summer.
As challenging as this may be for a straight edge, many, if not most, users try to accept and respect the straight edge decision and usually will not persuade or guilt anyone into using.
I feel like I could stop at any point in time if I really wanted to.
It's definitely important to be sober. Being high all the time or being drunk all the time is not okay. Like, you definitely need time for your brain to realize that, you know, being sober is good.
I respect people that say they're straight edge and that never felt the need to use drugs and alcohol. The people that don't ever have to use, they're much stronger people than I ever was.
Sure, partying and drug usage may be a good source of entertainment or escape for some, but take a moment to think. Is the emotional strain and physical risk of yourself and others really worth it? Your answer may be yes, but here's something else to think about. Most teens who don't use any type of drugs live happy, fulfilled lives. They fit in perfectly fine with the rest of the population and find that their lives and activities are as entertaining and compelling as they could ever ask for. So if you ever make the decision to experiment with drugs, make your own decision. But just remember,
I'm clean.
I'm clean.
I'm clean.
I'm clean.
I'm clean.
Today I have 20 months of sobriety and I'm clean.
think about it.
Salvation Army band played, and the children drank lemonade, and the morning lasted all day, and through an open window came, like Sinatra in a younger day, pushing the town away. Everyone else came down to listen. He said in winter 1963, it felt like the world would freeze, with John F. Kennedy and the Beatles. Yeah, yeah. Hey, mama, mama, hey, mama, mama, life in a northern